Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a former Boeing 737 pilot and a member of the PMDG 737 tech team. In today's video, let's have a look at the different passenger cabins modeled in the PMDG 737-800 for Flight Simulator 2024. There are a total of 5 different cabins available, starting with the high-density cabin featuring 189 seats and therefore the maximum that the 737-800 can be certified for. Next up, there is the, let's say, normal density cabin, which features a little bit less seats at the benefit of more legroom. And that one actually is the most widespread cabin that you will find in 737-800s flying around the world. As a third, there is a cabin that features a mixed class with business class seats and economy class seats. Then there is the 737 Freighter, which we are also going to have a look at, as well as the Boeing Business Jet 2, which is the business jet version of the 737-800. Alright, let's go ahead and start with a couple of basics though, and enter the flight deck over here, from where we can make our way back. Now, let's have a look into what is basically the same on all 3 versions, and that is the galley. So, when you're entering the aircraft, you've got the flight attendant jump seats over here together with the interphone and the flight attendant panel, from where you can also control all the lights in the passenger cabin. Now, there is this little divider wall over here, and I did see a couple of comments about that in my videos already, because even though this is the high density cabin featuring 189 seats, there is one famous airline that does not have that wall, and that is Ryanair. Even though they do have 189 seats, they don't have that. But other airlines, like for example TUI or Norwegian, they do have that wall, despite featuring 189 seats. And now claim that Ryanair offers no legroom, huh? So, the other thing that's the same is the galley part of things. So you've got things like your coffee maker that you can operate over here. You also have the other end side with the water that you can get, and all that lovely kind of stuff over here, which is the same on all 3 cabins. Now let's have a look into the actual passenger cabin. So the 189 seat cabin, as you can see, does really not have a lot of legroom here. And, well, that's just how it is in the real world. You want to fly as cheap as possible? Then stuff as many passengers as possible into the aircraft, whom you can spread the costs about. So, the cabin itself has the passenger service unit with working seatbelt and no smoking signs over here, even though in modern 737 logic, the no smoking sign will always be on, regardless of what the actual flight deck switch setting is, because that thing is simply forced on in the computer's logic of the aircraft itself. That's the same in the real world, by the way. Now, the economy seat does feature an in-flight entertainment screen, and then basically have the standard you would expect from an economy seat, so not a lot, but it is sufficient to get you cheaply from A to B. Now, going towards the back of the aircraft, in all 3 cabins, the overhead lockers can be opened, and they can be opened in 2 ways, respectively. You can either open them the standard way, or you can do a hard landing. That's also going to make some of them fall open. Now, overwing exits, typical 737 fashion over here. You pull that thing in the top over here, and as you can see, yes, that does actually work. You pull that, and then the door opens, and you can just throw it away. Alright, and, well, then you are going to evacuate the way the arrows tell you. In the best case, the crew thought of extending the flaps so that you can slide down. Otherwise, you might find a couple broken bones when people have to jump off the wing. But still better than people exploding with the aircraft, is it? Now, that much about the 189-seat cabin. Now, let's have a quick look into the aft galley over here. With all the galleys, you can operate the curtains. You can open and close those. And then, obviously, aft galley, 2 jump seats over here, 2 jump seats over there, and your standard set of ovens, coffee makers, and the typical stuff you would expect to find in a galley. Now, for the doors, all of them are operable using the door handle over here to open them, and then you can close them again using the gust lock button over there. You can also operate the straps, indicating to anyone on the outside looking in that these slides are actually armed. Actual slide arming, you got the girth bar down here, and that girth bar needs to be clipped into here so that when the door is opened, the girth bar sticks down here, door opens, that pulls out the slide activation mechanism. Well, and that is the 189-seat cabin that you can find on the 737. So let's now move on to the next one. Welcome to the all-economy cabin featuring 176 seats, all of which is of course correctly modeled in the weight and balance of the aircraft. Now, the all-economy cabin basically could also be used as a standard business class cabin here. So what many operators do is they just mark a certain row. Prior to that it's business class, they offer better service, but the seats are exactly the same as they are in the economy, with the exception that the middle seat is going to remain free. Now, the all economy setting features 30 rows, but as you will notice in the emergency exit row, there is actually a couple of seats less on the side over here, and it features a slightly improved leg room. If you do look closely over here, you'll notice it has a little bit more than the 189 seat cabin has. And this is probably the most common configuration of 737s to fly around the world, or I should say to fly outside of Europe, because Europeans do like their 189 configuration. And this is what it looks like. So let's now move on to the business class cabin. For the business class, let's head down under and have a look at the Qantas 737 at Orbex's new Perth airport, by the way. Yeah, they gave me a free copy. I am showing this to you. That's okay. I can live with that. So let's have a look at that one. And the business class cabin is a 163-seat configuration. And this is what it looks like. So as you can see, the business class seats have actually been made vastly larger than those from the economy or the mixed cabin, and you can also operate the curtains over here so that you can create a little bit of privacy in business class. Now let's just have a seat and have a look into what you guys are getting. So first of all, there is a larger and a widescreen IFE monitor over here. It's a lot nicer materials, it's a wider seat, which just makes it a little bit more relaxed to sit here, especially on the long cross-country flights that you might be doing across Australia or the United States, which is where operators mainly have cabins like this. Now, some airlines might also sell this as a first-class cabin. We'll just take it from there. Think Alaska, for example, who do have this on their 737s. Apart from that, next to the business class itself, of course, there is the standard economy class behind there, which we can just have another look into. But this is basically the legroom of the all-economy cabin, so not the very high-density cabin over here, but you do still have the third seat in the overwing exit row. So this is what a cabin would look like with an average high-profile airline. Think Qantas, think a lot of airlines from the United States and that type of operators. Now, that's the business class cabin, and with that we have talked about all three passenger cabins that come with your PMDG 737. What is worth adding at this point is that you do not just have your the cabins bound to each livery, but actually in the aircraft selection menu you can choose which configuration you want to fly, and basically all the liveries can be loaded onto all the different configurations. Now, the PMDG Operations Center shows you which cabin a livery is intended for, but all of them are cross-compatible, at least at the moment with PMDG liveries. Third-party painters may of course create repaints that fit only a certain type of cabin, depending on what the real operator has installed in their aircraft. Now, let's go on and have a look at the not self-loading cargo cabins. And that is, of course, the freighter. There are two types of freighters modeled with the PMDG 737-800. The first one is the Boeing converted freighter, and the second is the BDSF. So you got the BCF and the BDSF. The difference between the two is basically that one of them is converted by Boeing, the other one has been converted to a freighter by a third-party company. However, both of them basically follow the same design in the cabin. There's a couple differences in the flight deck, which we are going to talk about in a separate dedicated video. But now let's go ahead and have a look at the cabin. And this one is really vastly different. So let's open that up and have a look. And as you can see, we do have a small supernumerary area in the front over here, but what we do not have is any nice business seats or so that we would find on the 777 freighter. So, as you can see, this cabin is not based on the Boeing Sky interior, but basically all the converted freighters are based on the older cabin, and that one does not have the electronic flight attendant panel, but it has the old school conventional flight attendant panel that you would have found in earlier 737s. Now, a couple things that we can do over here. Let's first of all start with the air stair controls, which are available on any of the models, but I just like to show them over here because it kind of fits. So, air stair controls. We do have it usually in auto mode. Then you got the extend button down here, and if you press and hold that one, then after the air stair door has opened, the air stairs are going to come out, and that way you can control them right from the flight attendant panel. Now, we'll get into the lighting controls in a few moments over here. Apart from that, you also do have the wastewater and the portable water systems. Over here you got the test function, obviously. And then looking into the other side of the flight deck, we do have a small galley so that we can make ourselves some coffee to stay awake during those night flights that you would do with an airplane like this. And then there is obviously the portable oxygen bottles, which you need when you enter the actual cargo area, because that one does not have any oxygen masks in case of a decompression. Next up, there is also 2 jump seats installed in the back over here and 2 jump seats in the front over here, so that you can carry a total of 4 supernumeraries to your cargo. Now, let's have a look into operating the cargo door itself. You do have the main deck cargo door control panel in the back of the cargo cabin. In order to open it, you first of all got to hold the unlock light until the ready to open light illuminates. Like that. Then you got to arm the system, and then you can open it up using the control panel over here. Now, in order for that to work, you do need hydraulic pressure. So just like I've just failed to turn the hydraulic pumps on over here for the showcase, you will probably forget a couple times as well and wonder why the cargo door is not operating. That's your reason. Hydraulics need to be turned on. And then you can go ahead and arm that system and open it up. Now we can see it's in transit. We can also hear the door operating, and you will notice that you can stop the operation at any different point if you just release the switches. So right now, for example, we've already opened the latch, but the door itself hasn't quite moved yet. And that way you can open and close the door around, so just make sure that those are all set. There are 2 different predefined positions, which are the canopy position and the full open position, and that way you get to choose either a version where the door goes like half open, so that you do have a little bit of a rain shield here as well, and then there is, of course, the full open version. Now, let's also use this freighter cabin here for a moment to showcase the different lights that are available in a cabin like this. So let's just quickly go to nighttime over here, like that, and you can see that some stuff is already coming to life. And that is because the automatic control button is on down here. Let's turn that off though, and see what we got. So first of all, we got some stuff that's getting illuminated by the airport lights. Okay, can't change that, that's fine. Now, next up, let's go over the different controls. So if you do look closely over here, you will find you got the entry lights, which we can best look over from this perspective. You can see, put that on into the dim position, and put that on into the bright position, and this is the area that gets illuminated by them. Now, let's go ahead and turn those back off again and have a look into the ceiling lights. So the ceiling light is the aft switch here, and those are the ones over here. that you also got different dimming levels of. Now, next up, there is... Oops, let's move back over here. There is the workstation lights, which basically illuminate the standard jump seats. And then there is, of course, the ground service switch, which, however, does not have anything to do with the lighting internally. Basically, the ground service switch can be used if all the power is switched off in the flight deck, and you still want to use the cabin lights or the electricity in the cabin. That's what the ground service switch is doing. Well, and then, of course, there is a combination of all of those. And finally, you got the cabin lighting auto mode, which is going to tune the lights automatically depending on the current time of the day through sensors that are installed in the cabin. And that is the cargo version of the 737. Let's now move on to the last of the 737 versions, and that is the Boeing Business Jet 2. If you're wondering why 2, well, that's quite simple. The 700 serves as basis for the Boeing Business Jet, the 800 is the basis for the Boeing Business Jet 2. So the BBJ, as I will simply call it for the purpose of this video, obviously has a luxury cabin installed, and while you do have all the new standard controls over here, including the air stair controls, which are of course fully operable in the BBJ as well, you do still have your standard galley up here for the flight attendant to prepare any meals for your guests. But let's now have a look into what your guests have available. So we'll start with a little second kitchen over here that you can use to, you know, cook in a little bit more style, let's call it that way. Also for a little bit of a showcase to some of your passengers. You do have some conference rooms over here in the front part of the aircraft that are of course equipped with business class style seats. Then when we go a little bit further aft, we can open the door to the forward washroom, and that one is even equipped with a shower in here. And yes, I know what you guys are going to say. Could they have done a little bit higher detail in here? I certainly think they could, and I do have to agree with you guys on that one. Nonetheless, it's a nice and spacious washroom in here. Now let's go back out again and move a little bit further aft. In here we've got the large conference room, and this is really where you would sit down with, you know, all the leaders of the companies and discuss the important type of things. Now, as you can see by the overwing exits being here already, we have already reached the middle of the aircraft, so suddenly it doesn't look all that large anymore, does it? So, opening the door to the back, we got our entourage cabin, and this is basically a business class style cabin where you would transport any type of important people like journalists or whoever is accompanying you on that journey. Now there is obviously a washroom available in here as well, and there is a second one on the other hand side that you got back here, and then we can move a little bit further to the back. So this is where the important guests are sitting. Well, I was probably wrong calling this the cabin for the journalists before. This is more like what your own ministers and whatever you are transporting would seat. No, the journalists could go in the back over here and just be sitting on those little bit smaller seats. From here, we are of course going into the aft galley where once again they can prepare meals and stuff like that, similar to the passenger version of the aircraft. And that is what the Boeing Business Jet 2 cabin looks like. So overall, this is the 5 different cabins that we have on the PMDG 737-800 for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I certainly do like the variety. I do think that the cargo cabin actually looks best from them all, and that the passengers, while they're looking absolutely superb, are all still better than the cabin of the BBJ, where I would hope for a little bit more detail, if I'm completely honest. Nonetheless, it's still a nice looking cabin, and I'm sure you guys would find ways to spend your way around here, would you? Well, and that's all that I got for you today, so thank you very much for watching. Let me know which cabin you like best. Let me know which improvements you would like to see, and finally, thank you very much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and then I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.